So here comes another rambly video about my D&D campaign. Harvey, Ritsu, Yama, and Nualin, our characters, just defeated a group of rather tough smugglers. After the battle ended, the characters are pulled in front of their leader, Ritsu, who happens to be a monk, and also the sergeant of their little company. And Ritsu gives them a stern talking to, more or less calling out Nualin for his consistent uh, lack of art of actual arrows and his inability to ask anybody else for arrows. So he was more or less inefficient being in a high spot in this battle. So that made everybody a little bit mad. Then talked to Yama about constantly being in and out of combat, and kind of was all like, "Would you please just stick in combat with me? I kind of need someone to draw fire." And talked to Harvey about being in and out of combat so often that he more or less was consistently causing problems for Ritsu. Now you have to remember that the players themselves did everything pretty well. But in character, of course, soldiers can be really angry about nobody being there to back them up. So, moving on. A buddy system is suggested and kind of talked about for a little bit while they equipped the barge that the smugglers came on to go back out of sea. On this barge, there are, one box of cash. It looks like just straight gold pieces, and it's a nice big payout for them, which is about time because they haven't really got a lot of payouts for being adventurers. Now they're soldiers, so payouts are going to be a little lower. They start approaching the smuggler base on this barge, and as they do, Harvey, who is absconded with a sending stone, I should say absconded might not be the right word, but stolen a sending stone off of one of the dead bodies, and he's been hearing small messages from someone inside the base. And after a short period of time, he tries to communicate with this person, masking his voice. He does a pretty good job, but it's not perfect. And after a few minutes, they hear a bang, very light bang, a small firearm, reasonably far away. So they pull up to the base, and after a few minutes, it takes them about half an hour to kind of pull around the front of this cove. They see three kind of lumps on the shore. The lumps I describe as kind of piles of clothing that might have something in them, and they assume this is an ambush. Right away, being D&D players, they assume it's an ambush, and after a little bit, they realize that no, it looks like they're just dead. They pull up to the bodies, and all three bodies are dead. One of them with 2 bullet holes in the back of his head, one of them with a slit throat, and 2 with slit throats. And they're like, oh, that's weird. And the bodies seem to be, to them, placed in an odd way. It looks like they kind of could have killed each other, but doesn't look super convincing to them. Looks like everybody would have died of their wounds way too quickly for that. So they start exploring the base, and they come across a few things, like a few potions here and there, some of that nice things. But they then come across, bonjour, a gentleman who is locked in one of the cells in this place. It's like one back room that he's locked in, and they're like, oh, what the heck? So they look inside, and he's a trader of some kind. And he speaks with a strange accent. I give him a French accent, which is both fun to do, but also is very strange for the Crawlish world, so they don't know where it's from. Turns out, most of them wouldn't know where it's from, which is pretty handy. So this character comes out, like they eventually let him free, and they're like, "What? Who the heck are you? And why are you here?" He says that he is a merchant, and they see through that crap really quickly because he doesn't talk like a merchant. And then he says he's just a traveler, and then they see through that pretty quickly too. So eventually they kind of weed out the fact that he's not telling the truth. He's not really going to. After a while, they also realize he's probably the guy who killed the 3 guys up front. So they're a little wary of him. After a brief amount of negotiation, they load up the ship. Now, Harvey really shone here in the negotiations. He really was able to kind of push the envelope here and really kind of see through all this crap that was going on using a a one-time spell that I gave him in the kind of spell scroll form. It gives you kind of the ability to see through bullcrap. So after a short period of time, they load up 2 large crates of firearms, 16 firearms per crate, along with a barrel full of a strange substance that they do not look into. They are a little too scared to open it. So they load up and they start heading back to the town that they were in the night, or no, yeah, 2 nights before now. It's a bit of a long row. So Yama takes point on this. Now Yama's from the Shakai clan, and the Shakai are just the best boatmen in the world. You name a boat, they can pilot it to some degree. Now Yama also smashed their last boat, so there was a little bit of trepidation with the Yama taking the wheel once again. But Yama proved themselves and was able to get them to safety rather quickly. They carry on, and about halfway across the river, they see something in the water. And I described it as large in the water. And when I say large, I meant like pretty big, but they didn't know how big. So Nualan, he casts into the water with his magic fishing rod, and he rolls really high, and he hooks this thing. Turns out it's an anaconda. So the anaconda, and then get into a big fight. I call it, like, I use the giant constrictor snake stats, and it's a tough fight. Right up until the point it's not. The big snake pulls Nualan out of the boat into the water, wraps him up, and with him grappled and taking lots of damage, he dies in the water. That's the first character death of this campaign. With Nualan dead, the snake, with a kill, starts trying to swim away, and using harrying fire, their new captive, a character that they now know as, Janie. They find out this character's name is Janie. Janie and our friend Harvey both fire various types of shots. Janie has a kind of a pistol that comes into their hand, and they start shooting to kill this snake, and they do, and they recover the body, but it's too late. Nualan is very dead. There's a pretty somber moment when they pull him back on board, and Ritsu, who really doesn't show a lot of emotion towards any character, because, not really their circus or monkeys, kind of has a little bit of a breakdown trying to bring them back, and starts hammering on Nualan's chest, and really trying medicine checks and anything to bring him back, but he's dead. There's not much you can do. It was kind of a cool moment, and very, very sad, because it's just interesting to watch a character that didn't really care now really caring, apparently showing something from a deeper side that we didn't know was there. Excuse me. They get to shore, and this their captive, quote unquote, decides that they're going to leave, and not being able to really hold them with way less power than they had, and all these characters are at like 1 or 2 health and are still reeling from the loss of their friend. They more or less say, well, you agreed to give us the guns, so you're going to give us the guns. And he's like, well, you guys can't really take them from me. And they're like, okay, no, you're giving us some of them. And he's like, okay, cool. 1 crate of guns for you guys. So they have a crate of guns and a few of the bodies of the dead. Harvey is pretty smart here. He has like a bottle that allows him to hold a lot of space, kind of like a bag of holding that he has on him, and he puts a few the bodies in there so they can show them to the various authorities later. Okay, what else happens here? So after a while, they get back to this small, this small town, and yeah, it's more or less where we ended it. It was a bittersweet ending for our party, and I was a big fan of the session. It went really, really well, but yeah, it's always hard to lose a character, and I think it went as good as it could have. early years for the character, so the character couldn't really do much. But anyway, so that was this week's, or last week's, I should say, campaign. Uh, Gonna be playing in the next few days. I'll try to have another one of these up really soon. Yeah, happy gaming, everybody. Enjoy yourselves out there, and take her easy. Bye.